The NBS released a report saying that headline inflation reduced to 15.99% in October. But, reports at the market show that this situation is quite different. Now, our reporter went out to seek the opinion of people in the market, and this is what she found out.
The NBS report says price increases reduced on month-on-month basis from 1.26% in September this year to 0.80% in October. However, traders at Utalco Market in Abuja dismissed the report, saying prices of essential items have rather been on the increase.
Everything is very, very cost in the market. As you can see, before, model of beans is 200 naira. Or high is 250, but now model of beans is 1,200. The other one 1,000. You can't even buy gari now. Is 700, 600. Red is 700, white gari is 600. Before, white gari is 150 in a mudu. Everything is very, very cost in the market. As I'm talking to you, in this market, you cannot see fresh paper of 50 naira. But before, you even see 20 naira on. But as I'm talking to you now, you cannot see fresh pepper, 15 naira. You cannot see. Talk less of onions. You cannot see onions of 100 naira. As I'm talking to you. I'm not talking about dress or other things, but the food items is very, very cost.
Things are not cheap in the market. Things are getting higher every day. In fact, sometimes, even the star Maggi that I went to buy yesterday, as of last week, it was 10,000 naira. Then this week is 11,500 naira. A carton of Star Maggi. Then none is 10,000 naira. Before it was 8,000 something. So things are increasing. Look at the spaghetti that we used to sell 300 naira before, 280. Now it's 350. A carton is 6,600, 6,700. So okay, look at egg. Egg before we used to buy 800 naira per crate, but now 1,800 naira per crate, and we have the one of 1,700. So Nigeria is getting more worse and worse. It was when we are small that if they say Nigeria will be better, that is when we believe.
Some Abuja residents say life of average Nigerian is declining owing to increase of prices of life necessities.
If you enter this market today, I just bought some things now. I want to use familiar tissue, for example. I bought it 400 naira recently. I came to the market today, they said 600 naira. If you get something today, tomorrow the price is different. Honestly, it's not easy. I have 2 children, but I'm feeling it for those who have like more than 2 children. It's not easy surviving in this country now.
Everything is just at the increase, but I don't know. It's just God that will help us, because even me, while I came to buy some things, I was like surprising on all the budget I made. I end up spending more because of, I don't just know, but it's just God that will help us. Being a Nigerian, we bless God. No problem. Thank God for our leaders. But what can we do? Because nobody is speaking out. The government are not speaking out. Nobody is saying. It's just they are comfortable of everything that is happening because it's not affecting them. So I feel because it's not actually affecting them, that is why they don't talk.
Nothing is cheap. Everything is cost. So things is very cost this December. This is not cheap. It's very cost. You can see guys now, everything just they cost. Tomato, everything just they cost. Everything costs, nothing cheap. Nothing cheap again. Everything is cost.
The Nigerian government is reportedly planning to come up with stimulus that will crash food prices in the country. When that will happen is, however, still not certain. Nafisa Abdul-Al, TrustTV News, Abuja.
All right, thank you for staying with us. And if you're just joining, of course, is Daybreak on Trust Television. Now, looking at that report, you could say, well, what's missing here? Where do we not get it right in terms of, the costing? On one hand, the NBS report is saying this, and this is what, people in the market are saying. But, well, to get a better perspective on that, we have Adefolarin Olamilekun, political economist, in the studio to give us, perspectives and make sense of this. Why is it not making sense and tallying with the reality that we have, this NBS report?
Thank you for having me on Trust TV. It's another opportunity to shed light on some of these development issues in Nigeria, especially on the economic wise. Before we came on air, I was telling you that inflation is the making of global capitalism. is one of those instrumentality of economics whereby liberal economists believe that when prices of things goes up, it calls for spending more on the economy, whereby production will be enlarged, and whereby companies will make more money and profit will be realized and otherwise. But on the other aspect, what they are failed to understand from the critical heterodox economic is that when such inflation arises, people get more into poverty. People get more into not being able to meet up with their daily spending. And meanwhile, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Now, in your report, Nigeria React, 15 point something percentage of inflation that was released recently by NBS. How does it correlate? How do Nigeria understand it?
Right.
Nigeria don't understand such economic language. What they want to understand is how can this be realizable in terms of the prices of goods in the market. In one of your headline news, tomato pepper crashes, but in Jos, onion prices increases. What does it tell you? It tells you that as much as those prices in that particular aspect of that particular area get greed in the hands of people that are selling those products, they continue to make money. And this doesn't reflect what NBS is saying. And what NBS does is to look at year-to-year calculation through their measurement of the consumer price index. And all this language, the Nigerian people, they don't get to understand such. So what they are looking at is how can this price reflect what NBS is saying? And there are so many challenges. I've mentioned that it has to do with global capitalist instrumentality, whereby they increase prices of goods to make more money, and they tell you that making that much money is to expand such money in the economy so that the economy can boost.
So is it an unrealistic expectation to say because of the decline in the inflation rate, then we should expect the reduction in the cost of price of things in the market?
One thing you need to understand is this: price of things in the market in Nigerian context, once it goes up, at least it comes down. Reason based that, one thing we need to quickly grasp is that the moment inflation rises, what does it do? It does damages to the naira. The purchasing power, the currency power reduces. That's why I say that 20 naira, 50 naira is no more too viable to buy anything again. That's why pure water is now 20 naira, 30 naira. Because as a result of what? Inflation, cost increase. Now, what we need to understand is this, and so that our people out there can understand, so that the government can take action. The Nigerian economy need to work. And how does that work come in? It's for government to take action, drastic action on certain things. People have been calling that we should have a price control board. People have been calling that the government should marshal industry so that we can produce more. Because if you study the NBS report, they outline things that are very expensive, from cooking gas in terms of food items and farm produce, then to things that were imported. And those things that are important in terms of electronics, textiles, garments, these are the things they calculated to get to that figure they are putting out now. Now, for us to be able to get around all this so that we can have a better rate for our prices of goods, is for the government to sit tight and do the right thing. I heard Ogamza when he was analyzing newspaper report that people cut corners. One of the things that is affecting our economy is that people cut corners in terms of trying to put out government policies. The government has been putting several policies to address economic issues, but at the end of the day, we have sabotaging element that will come around and put a stop to that. And that's why we're having issues with our food prices and consumer price index all over product. I remember before NBS carried out this report, they have about 10,500 informants that go out to the 36 states, including FCT, to get those reports for them. And they analyze 740 to 750 items of goods and services. And they get feedback report and they work on it. I was telling you before we came on air that they add year-to-year analysis. They also have month-to-month analysis. In the year-to-year analysis, they have high rate prices and they also have low rate prices. In the sense, there are some states that if you check them year-to-year, their prices, their inflation is very high, where some their own is very low. Then on the month-on basis, they also have high rate and also low rate. It shows that location also affects the price of good. You asked me a question before we even came on air. I said, how come that location also I said it affects in the sense that you said bag of rice 35,000 in Lagos, bag of rice 40,000 in Abuja. Remember that those bag of rice you are talking about are imported rice. Before they will transfer them to Abuja, the tires and wheels of the truck, we know how many times those trucks must have gone bad on the road before they even arrive to Abuja. Then the distributor have to add his own. Then the person that the retailer will also have his own. Then the woman that is selling at the roadside, at the outside, selling the mudu, the cup, have to add their own. And these are the things that take cognizance on the prices of goods, services, especially food items in Nigeria.
Okay. Now, part of the report states that the Composite Food Index rose by 18.34% in October 2021 compared to 17.38% in October 2020. What does this really mean?
What it means is that that 18 point something they analyzed before and the 17 they are getting, there is a shift. And that shift brings it down to the 17. But now we're having 15. What they are trying to see, if you listen to the sideline talk of the DG of the NBS, was that most of the policy of the government is not taking effect after the COVID-19 impact on Nigerian economy. So I mean, the policy that the government is trying to put out to recover the economy is not taking effect, but it has to be maintained. For us to, from 18 to 17 and now to 15, before it was even 18, 17, 15, and 16, then now 15. How can we bring it down to 10? Because Ghana, our neighbor, is 10. South Africa is 4. Egypt is 6.9. So how can we get to that level? And much work needs to be done. And if that much work needs to be done, that means maintaining it at this level it is to reduce it is the work that needs to be done. And that's why all the economic policy of the government have to be marshaled in a way that I always talk about sabotage. People that want to cut corners. These are the people that affect government policies. Importers, distributors, and many of them. And this is where they make their money from. And they'll keep giving excuses that the road is bad, the foreign exchange is this and that. We understand that, but excess profit that they normally make after all this is what makes all these goods and services to be very expensive.
Okay, now how long until Nigerians begin to feel the impact, of these things that you mentioned, the government policies and all of that? Just how long will it now take for Nigerians to actually begin? Because now what we are seeing is on paper.
Exactly.
Right? So how long will it take for Nigerians to begin to feel the impact, of these numbers?
One of the things I normally say in my articles is this. I normally caution the government. Most of their development plans, economic plans, is elitist in nature. Why can't we have a bottom-up development plan? Let's consider the people on that particular ladder, the people on the floor. What I mean by people on the floor, the people that are struggling to make ends meet. If you discover the economic plan, the intervention program of CBN, who are the people getting it? Who are the people getting the millions? It's still part and parcel of the elite group. Develop economic plan that can go down to the grassroots and take care of the people. Now, you ask, how long are we going to wait before this thing translates to better economic index for the people so that they can enjoy, they can have a good living and have a good health for themselves? It takes political will. If the federal government is devoting 20 billion, 100 billion for a particular economic program, can it get down to the people? Will it not be politicized? Will it not be a blackmail against the government themselves? Because one thing I've noticed about Nigerian issues is that the moment government develop a particular plan, there are some people that will come around and blackmail the government so that the right thing will not be done. I don't know where we are following. The right thing will not be done. So the government have to take this plan down to the grassroots. Because it is at the grassroots they can feel it. Because the report we just showed now show that people in the market, in Massacre market, in Yanya market, they don't understand inflation. What they want is to let the price crash. Let us have a mudu of gari from 300 to 150. Let us have a mudu of rice, imported rice or locally made rice from 600, 800 naira to 350 or 300 naira. That's what they are looking for. So the government must have that political will to translate all the policy into what people can physically enjoy it and have peace of mind and be able to give the government the support that they need. And that is the way to go for now.
Okay. You earlier mentioned that the government needs to have political will, to implement this.
Exactly.
So would you say politics and corruption has a role to play here?
They are entangled. They are one coin of the same side. Politics and corruption. Take for instance, anybody going to politics in Nigeria now, the first thing they will ask you, do you have the money? We have read in commentary editorial whereby someone want to go and contest for governorship, they'll tell him, do you have 2 billion? That 2 billion is not the money your final spending. That is what you can even start. We don't know what you end up spending. So I don't know whatever anybody spends to become a politician, to become a governor, a senator, or whatever, you want to recoup. Some of them go as far as collecting loan. So in recovering all those funds they have expended, make them not to do the right thing. And even when they want to do the right thing, blackmailing of government policy is trending in Nigeria, and we have to stop it. Take for instance when Ogamza was talking about the fuel crisis at the depot, and was it not blackmail? How could a government agency be collecting revenue in dollar? Not until the government have to say stop it. Was it even right? That's why late Bayo Ojo and one of the Nigerian finance economists normally talk about, we don't need to do all these things. Why will you allow agency or government to be running around with dollar, including individuals? And these are the things that corrupt the Nigerian economic development. So we have to reverse it. And politics also have a way to strengthen the economy, because it is from the political will of government to do the right thing that economic policy will now get down to the grassroots. And if it doesn't get down to the grassroots, there's no way the people will feel the impact of the government. I think recently government have been talking that they have spent over 30-something billion in cash transfer to the people. How many of Nigerians are getting those cash transfer? Even if many of them are getting it, how impactful is the cash transfer? Those are the questions Nigerians normally ask. CBN asked over 37 interventions in the economy. How far has those interventions gone? Now they are planning another 100 million or whatever for 100 companies. How would that go? How far would that go to impact Nigerian economy? Because if 100 companies getting 100 million or whatever from CBN, it should have impact on the people at the long run. And those are the things we are calling for.
So when you talk about some of the policies and programs of government are elitist in nature,
exactly,
and that there's need to, drive those programs to the grassroots, and let it come from bottom up.
Exactly.
What will that take, for that to happen? What will it take for that to happen? What will government need to do? What kind of programs do you think that will really, go down and have an impact on at least the majority of the people?
You must have heard about needs of Nigeria, National Economic Empowerment Development needs that were established during the Obasanjo period. Now, the APC government have Economic Recovery Growth Plan, and they also have Economic Sustainable Recovery Plan. How much of the grassroots are involved in terms of subnational government, state government, local government? How much of their impact, how much of their input is in that document? That is where lies the issues. When the federal government is developing a plan, now there's a plan called the 2020 to 2025 plan. There's also the 2050 Nigerian project plan. Is federal government at the federal government level? Are state carried along? Are the local government carried along? How would they fuse it into such plan? If such plan is just at the top, the state are not involved, the local government are not involved, how would the ordinary people get involved and get an impact from such program? So what we are suggesting is that whatever plan the federal government is having, whatever lines that include the state and the local government, they should make sure that there is political will for each of the state government and local government, 774 of them, get involved, not just on paper, but practically get involved. As the federal government is planning, consider putting the state and local government engagement. Most of the things they normally do is this. If you have been able to study most of the federal government plan, when they now get to the state, they'll go and inform the state government that we are doing this, they are doing this. Before you know it, the local government will come. Then they will say, okay, they are disposing so amount to a particular local government. The physical planning, the arrangement, the implementation of those plans, are the local government, are they carried along? Are their official staffs involved in the planning process and in the implementation process? After throwing such money to the state government and local government, now hearing EFCC is after someone. A case in point in the education sector is SUBEB, State Universal Education Board. Recently, UBEB cried out that state government at the state level, the money, their intervention, their own contribution funding, they don't get it done. And even those that get their own, they don't implement it to the way they're supposed to implement it. And one of the cases they raised was books for children in the school, that the books were locked up somewhere. When I read the report, I was like, I almost developed an article on that area, but I just, okay, let me do more finding that. These are just an example of how federal government have a very laudable, brilliant, economic impactful plan, but at the state, at the subnational level, to the local government level, it becomes something that will not be impactful. And that's what we are calling it. Let there be a deep collaboration, using political will, using economic will, and using social cultural will of the people to make sure that plans of the federal government don't just stop at the state government house or stop at the local government secretariat, but get down to the people in rural area. Not just in rural area, including suburbans and urban areas like FCT.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we'll continue our conversation, around the NBS Inflation Report. Please stay with us.
All right, we are still discussing the latest NBS report about inflation dropping to over 15%. Now, there's this question I've been meaning to ask. Presently, are there any scheme targeted at job creation for the Nigerian youth?
Although in the last 6 years of the Buhari administration, they have set up several schemes to create employment. National Directorate of Employment have been training people on several skills. And they also have the Ministry of Humanitarian and Disaster Management creating the Empower scheme. Then the Ministry of Labour also came up with the Social Work scheme. Although the Social Work scheme was just for 3 months, I think it has expired, just for them to close up that gaps and pay them off. Then the Empower of the new 500,000 plus they have just recruited is about to start, which are just stopgap employment creation for Nigerian youth. But there are other ways to create better sustainable jobs for Nigerians. As we already said before we went on break, sometimes we consider this kind of stipend given to Nigeria as just waste of money. Why can't we impact or fund our commanding height economy? Ajakuta is there lying fallow. A conference will soon be organized, a paper workshop that will not go anywhere. The federal government is about to secure a loan. When that loan comes, their part of it will be put into Ajakuta. Why can't we make Ajakuta work? Ajakuta can employ millions of Nigerians, including youth, and create other sub-chain jobs. I was discussing with someone in Nasani yesterday, and he said Ajakuta is supposed to be providing them metals to develop their equipment in Nasani. But Ajakuta is sleeping. How can we resuscitate such gigantic infrastructural edifice that is there? Not only Ajakuta, we also have Delta Steel in Delta State. There's also another rolling mill in Jos. Then we have Otapi in the same Kogi State. And several of them scatter all over Nigeria. There's one particular one, I cannot remember his name. It's an automobile fabrication company in Osun State. All of them, grasses, pet animals taking over their compound. How can the federal government resuscitate all these lay-off industries? And that is the way to get better job creation for Nigerians. And that is the best way we can go. But all this stipend giving 20,000, 30,000, it won't go. If APC leave power now, the next government came, it may not be interested in Empower job. So we need a sustainable job for the Nigerian youth. And that is the best way we can do for our youth, so that we can give them sustainable income and livelihood that will keep them for a long time before they get to retirement age.
Okay. Now, with the existence of the economic recovery plan, do we still say that the COVID-19 pandemic still impacts the Nigerian economy?
If you read this morning news, the federal government said they want to end COVID-19 2022. They make sure that the fatality and whatever risk that is associated with end 2022. But the global world have not yet announced whether they are ending in 2022. But that's it. I love the way that's a proactive measure to stop it. But the impact of COVID-19, we are still feeling it. Organizations are just recovering. People that were laid off, some of them are being called back. In Nigerian case, people that have been laid off, we don't know whether many of them have been called back or they will be called back or they have been called back. But the issue is this: the impact of COVID-19 is very, very severe. Not just Nigeria alone, globally. But where we are going now is this: how can we make a use of the opportunity that COVID-19 gave us? Thank God we make use of the ICT opportunity. There are other avenues that we also make use of. What do we learn from COVID-19 impact? How can we improve on what we have learned? How can we make sure that the negativity of COVID-19 will not come as a pandemic in future, so that we can plan ahead, especially economic recovery aspect? I remember in 2020, the federal government released 2.5 trillion into the economy to reorganize the economy. And those are the money they were using to organize the economy. We don't know much impact of it. So we need a report from Federal Ministry of Finance to give us how far have that money gone. CBN, I always mention CBN because my articles focus on most of their monetary policy as well as in combination of fiscal policy. They have over 37 intervention programs. Recently, the governor of CBN said they have released over 33 trillion to Nigerian economy. Who got that intervention? How impactful are those interventions? Because these are the things we pick up from COVID-19. It is because of COVID-19, those intervention money we have quickly released. So how impactful it is? Even in agricultural sector, several millions of naira were released. How impactful? Because what will be left for us in Nigeria, what will be left for intellectuals like us is that after releasing such money, what can we point to? That this is what this money have done, this is how sustainable it has been doing, and this is how recovery the economy has been, and the way forward. If we don't get to that level, that means in coming years, that's how we'll be throwing money at problems and will not get results.
So with all of this money, just like you are raising now, where is the money? And you know, how has importation also, you know, how has it contributed, you know, in us finding ourselves where we are today? For instance, if you look at the naira, for instance, and the dollar, you know,
both at the parallel market,
it just keeps going once and all of that. So with all of this intervention, and we are still not feeling the impact, do you think that importation has, you know, played some role here in terms of, you know, sending more money out there?
Importation does. You know, one of the key things, when I was on the Business Daily last week, we talked about inflation, importation, and I mentioned that one of the reasons why we continue to import is because we don't have the technology to produce what we're importing. And the one we have managed to import, and the one we have managed to produce, Nigerians are not patronizing it. Why? Because the government is not even taking the lead. And I suggested something on Business Daily that day. From the federal government to the state government to the local government, anything they want to do, they should make use of made in Nigerian products. That will serve as a lesson to every other government institution and agency. I know you have done discussion around Nigerian budget. More than 40% in my own assessment of money that we spend in this budget is going to automobile importation. Automobile buying of operational vehicle, buying of this and going for trainings. Tell me, if the federal government make it as a policy, let the federal government, the presidency, sign it as an executive order. Every vehicle belonging to every organization, MDAs, must come from Inosi Motor. What do you think Inosi Motor?
Well, I think that executive order is there. Executive order 003, which the federal government, you know, released out there, signed sometime in 2017 to mandate government agencies, ministries, department, and parastatals to, you know, prioritize that local industries and all of that.
The next thing is I will tell you is that there is no political way to get it done. If there is political way to get it done, nobody would disobey that particular order. But because there is no political way, nobody will punish, nobody will query. It is just like friends, everybody just judge, everybody just enjoy each other, and let us just see that we get it done. everybody smile. As far as you are getting your own, you keep quiet. And that's what it is. But when there is political will that once federal government release such order, we follow. Nobody will not say they will not follow such order. And because there is no political will to punish, to sanction, and to penalize whoever disobey that order, that's why you see them buying foreign cars. And that's what led to more importation of those foreign cars, and whereby our own refuse to grow. Meanwhile, they have called for local assembly of such cars. How many of them are working on it? Apart from Peugeot that is trying to do such, other companies have promised they will do this, they will do that. At the end of the day, what did they call for? They could not get it done. And that's where we are today. So importation play a big role. If you also go back to the NBS report, they talk about import garment and textile, import electronics, appliances. These are the things that that make our naira to go down, because one naira is chasing few dollars in circulation. So it has to go down, go up. Even though with the sanction of BDC by CBN, the naira is still fluctuating. At the parallel market now, it's above 500 naira. But the official market falls something to 500 naira. But how can we ameliorate and stop this gap? Is to make sure that the Nigerian industrial sector is revamped. I wrote an article in the beginning of this year when the president released his New Year speech. He said the economy will be his priority. And I replied with an article. I said, revamping the economy is not negotiable. And I highlighted some things that the president may have to face in terms of people that will gang up, blackmail the government policy. And that's what we have today. They will gang up and blackmail the policy of the government. When borders were closed, many of us say, oh, people started shouting this. And we normally make yardstick with Malaysia, Indonesia, all these Asian tigers and Asian cub. Do you know what they did? I was telling someone yesterday, I said, if we follow 1% of what these Asian tigers and Asian cub did to revamp and revitalize the economy, Nigerians will not allow it. They close their borders. They make sure that intellectuals that went to study abroad use that knowledge to transmit and transform their local economy.
Okay,
and that's where they are today.
So what will be responsible? What will ensure, the stabilization of the Nigerian naira?
One of the things we need to do is to revamp our industries. We should also encourage local production and buy into made in Nigeria. In one of the newspaper report this week, manufacturers are crying that more than 50% of whatever is being lost to importation of goods. What are they trying to say? Even when they try it as much as possible, their members try to produce, Nigerians don't patronize them. Some of us, we are talking about, just like a side, your colleague was talking about shoes. We have made in Aba shoes. I'm normally wearing sneakers. On my show in TrustTV, these sneakers was made in Aba. The materials were found in Africa. The coupling of it was everything done in Nigeria. The same thing with my shirt and my chinos. Most of these materials are here, but the challenge is that we don't have that new technology to transmit and to transform such raw material. But the one we are trying to do, let us patronize them.
Could it be because of quality? Because most people, complain because of the quality. That is why they don't like patronizing.
15, 20 years ago, can you buy a China product? No. But the same low quality of China product or Taiwan product is now the new modern product. That's why American market, Chinese product is there. Singapore product is there. Why? Because from that low quality that they started upgrading. The more money a manufacturer, a producer gets from his product, that is how he will be putting money in research development to improve on what he has, to improve on what he has been producing. But in Nigerian case, with all our over 60 research institutions, what are they doing?
Okay. Now, critical infrastructure is needed here in terms of revamping, the industries like you mentioned now. Particularly if you take the issue of power, it's a major problem for many manufacturers. And so they are unable to compete with this cheap imports because their cost of production at the end of the day it will go so high because they have to source their own power, they have to source other raw materials and all of that. Do you think that maybe we should consider, or if we have before, consider declaring a state of emergency on power for manufacturers, specifically for manufacturers?
Exactly. I wanted to say the state of emergency on power has been declared. That's why it was privatized. But the same problem continues. You know one thing our elite doesn't want to listen to when people like us talk, when especially critical heterodox economists talk about power. It is a sabotaging element. Why is it that importance of generators continue to profit continue to rise? Why is it that people that are making money from such importation refuse? There was a time in National Assembly, a particular senator House of Reps brought a bill that there should be a ban on importation of generator. What happened? I don't know why. Daily Trust followed that. But what happened? Blackmail. Within 24 hours, they profiled that particular legislature, and that was the dead end of that particular law. The political will I've been talking about is this. Can we take, emergency for power for manufacturer? One of the things we need to do is this. Can we now make it in a point of priority that power will now be taking priority in our economic development, whereby we take a drastic position, and a drastic position, can we stop importation of generator? If we can do that, Nigeria will sit up. Secondly, all our research institutes, National Air Power and Research Institute and the rest of them, can they come in collaboration with federal government so that we can tackle this? I think the Minister of Power was saying that by December, the Zingeru and one other power plant will be ready. That's how the minister, politician, political appointee will make such statement, but he never knew what is the undercurrent happening. Because as long as we are still importing generators, it will be very difficult. And one of the claims of these businessmen in that sector is that they are giving employment to Nigeria. And you see, you are giving employment to Nigeria in another way, you are still taking off the best of economic profit or economic growth from Nigeria. Because as there is no power, then businesses fail. Businesses will not succeed. The little money they are making to improve on their research, to improve on their product, they spend it on fuel and they spend it on diesel. And that's how it is. And that's why the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria is crying loud that power is their major challenge, followed by infrastructure, in terms of road network, to distribute their chains of products and other things that follow.
Quite a lot of issues, when we talk about infrastructure.
Exactly.
You raised some issues about the need for road, connectivity in terms of roads,
exactly.
And to convey some of these goods. In the past, we know that rail lines played very, very crucial roles in terms of connecting the whole country. And it was, I would say, much easier for manufacturers to move goods, around the country and all of that through the rail lines and all of that. Yes, we are seeing quite a lot of effort by the current administration to complete all the projects that were done in that respect, and which is why we have the Kaduna Abuja rail line, in operation, and other rail lines, in some parts of the country. But again, there are issues of welfare, maintenance, issue of security also being a threat, and all of that. How can we surmount these challenges, and how important it is for us to really, have all of these rail lines back, functionally and optimally?
I think railways serve as one of the most, safe corridor for transport. Apart from air transport, the railway is next than road. But the issue with Nigeria is that because of the mongoose budgeting system of having an infrastructure development in Nigeria, always sounds suspicious to the people. If you check all the railway projects that Nigerian government have been engaging, it has been running to billions of dollars. But one thing I would always suggest is this, in most of my write-up and my argument, in my discussion, is that let the government carry the people along. Railway is very good. Railway is very fantastic, especially to carry heavy duties goods from far distance to other areas and connecting very well. But the issue is this, the Ministry of Transport has been handling it. How much of the road transport association have they been engaging with them? Because it's very key. How much of other stakeholders in that chain of sector have they been engaging? Because if they allow them to embrace such projects, everybody will give them support. Anytime there is a loan, especially these last two loans that came for railway project, did you see the way people rose against it? Because the government didn't carry them along, and because the people are not even seeing what they are talking about. The Kano, Niger, Megari, what they call that particular rail line that they wanted to go into, which was discovered that it's going to impact our economy. The same thing with Calabar rail line and other rail lines that have been set to do. But because the government is not carrying the stakeholders, and when I'm talking about the stakeholders, I'm talking of associations that have portfolio members. I'm talking about the real people that are engaged in that particular sector. Let's carry them along. Let's engage them alongside the media. You mentioned of welfare. The workers in the railway sectors. What is their salary skills? What is their pension skills? How are they carried along? How are they motivated to get involved and to get motivated to work in that sector of the economy? If all this can be put into cognizance by the government, everybody will give them support. And anytime a railway project is about to be carried out, like this Lagos-Ibadan railway, fantastic, very good, solid, what do you call it, a double grade rail, which is very good for Nigeria. But are Nigerians really involved in that project, that the one from Ibadan to Abuja can be executed? The one from Delta to Itape was vandalized recently. But how much of engagement are the government making with both host communities that the railway pass through their corridor and people, especially as the workers? Because we need to put all this together.
I think we need to, there's a report, packaged by our correspondent about, the striking railway workers. Let's take a look at that. When we come back, we take a look at other perspectives around the issue as well. Take a look.
The union is ready to down tools over improved working and salary conditions, which it described as the worst and most incomprehensible of all salary structures available to the parastatals under the supervision of the Ministry of Transport. Members of the union argue that there is no correlation between the billions being spent by the federal government on the railway infrastructure and their current remuneration package. It has been reported that the meeting between the Minister of Transport, Mr. Rotimi Amechi, and the Railway Workers Union held on Saturday ended in a deadlock, with both parties failing to reach an agreement. However, efforts to get official confirmation from the NRC on the current situation of the proposed strike action proved abortive. NRC officials who spoke off camera can confirm that currently talks are ongoing between NRC management and the union in order to find a resolution to the standoff. Ibrahim Yusuf Muhammad, TrustTV News, Abuja.
Well, there you have it. I mean, this is the update. And now we are also getting feelers that someone who went to the railway station to embark on a trip to Kaduna had to return because, as they have said, the union workers, the railway workers have begun their strike indeed today. And that's a major setback, if you ask me.
Terrible. Passengers are lamenting, according to reports reaching us as well.
So hopefully that will be looked into and all the grievances will be resolved as soon as possible so that we can, a lot of people depend on this. I mean, you have, say for instance, people residing in Abuja, having businesses in Kaduna, and some of them, having businesses, in Abuja, and they reside in Kaduna. They use that, route to, come and forth, all the time to monitor their businesses and all of that. And now all of that is on hold as a result of the strike.
When we were discussing before we went on break, I said welfare of workers. How much of that has the government put into consideration? One thing about the Nigerian state is that they have a way of leaving the people behind. That's why I talk about elitist development program. They only concentrate all this while that railways has been revamped, revitalized. The government didn't put into consideration the paperwork of the workers. And that's what led to this. They are calling for improved welfare packages. And that's been a challenge to the Nigerian state. You consider the infrastructure, you consider all the material features of a particular project, but the human aspect, the motivation what will motivate that human aspect to be able to get engaged and do the right thing without cutting corners, you forget it. Remember, these same railway workers, there was a time they were being accused of selling tickets beyond the prices or what was the official price. And it became an issue before they now introduced the online ticketing for that particular sector. Now, the government have to come back and sit on the round table. There's no need to drag issues. I think before the end of today, since they allowed this particular strike last week, I was wondering what has been taking the union and the government, Minister of Transport, Minister of Labour, not to quickly have a round table discourse and look for a way forward for this particular thing. I know they may not get what they want immediately, but there should be a concrete agreement, signed MOU on paper that should be signed by both parties so that at the end of the day, before middle of next year, whatever their grievances can be settled. Because one thing about workers is that they come with initial gra. We normally say in local parlance, fire brigade, do it now. It is not done that way because of the bureaucratic nature of the federal government. That's why you see that up to date, also you see having issues, and they are even claiming that they also go on. So because when government wants to do something, the bureaucratic nature slow it down. The same thing may fall on this one, but we encourage the union to sustain their struggle. And in sustaining their struggle, they should also consider Nigerians. Travelers from Abuja to to Kaduna for this particular journey, they should consider them and resend their voice and call up the strike. That's what I will just put out today. But they should make sure that they sit with the government and get the things done. And their union leader should be very careful. They should speak with one voice. They should not go and sell their right and allow politicians to mess them up. Because at the end of the day, what normally happens is that after signing an agreement, after signing an MOU, because you have allowed your will to be eroded, you now come back to your members and not be able to defend what you have done. So we don't want that to happen in the railway sector.
Okay. Right on your screen, is the Idu rail line, where obviously it looks deserted. According to reports, there are passengers stranded presently. The rail line didn't used to look like this. It used to be, filled up with quite a number of people. But right now, the visuals on your screen show you that there's actually nobody there, preparing to travel through that route.
Well, hopefully they will call back the strike as soon as possible. All the issues will be resolved so that Nigerians can get to, embark on their trips, to the various parts of the country. Rail lines are coming back, and we are now getting, confident that these means of transportation will do a whole lot in helping Nigerians and all of that. And so having strikes like this, I would say it's a major setback, especially as you consider the whole issue of insecurity and all of that. More Nigerians are depending on these rail lines, especially between Abuja and Kaduna, and all of that for their travels. So it's a huge setback, and hopefully it is looked into as soon as possible. Well, I would say with that, we've come to the end of the show for today. We've touched on quite a lot.
Exactly.
And we have Olamilekun Adefolarin in the studio, political economist, who has been giving us perspectives on these recent happenings. The NBS report vis-a-vis the reality in the market and Nigeria's infrastructure deficit and the need to revamp, our local industries to be able to do better so that we can have Nigerians live a much more deserving life, a much more comfortable life, a decent life. I think that's
and have our naira above all, have our naira appreciated.
Exactly, appreciate to the level that me and you can be very confident of the naira.
Right.
All right, thank you for joining us for the show this morning. Hopefully you join us again another time.
It's an opportunity for me to also thank TrustTV as one of the flagship TV stations that is getting wider coverage and wider viewers' demand. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for coming. All right, with that, we wrap up the show. In case you've missed, you can follow us across all social media handles and also subscribe to our YouTube channel on TrustTV on YouTube and also other platforms. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Thank you so much for joining. Join us again tomorrow for another time on the program.
And I am Zainab Bala. Thank you so much for sticking with us.